Have you ever looked at a couple and thought, wait, how did he pull her? Be honest. You've seen it walking down the street. A woman so stunning she could grace the cover of a magazine. Her energy radiates, her confidence contagious. She's what society calls a perfect 10. And then your eyes shift to the guy holding her hand, and you pause. He's not tall, not chiseled, not stylish. His haircut's probably stuck in 2019. His beard's patchy. His fashion sense just as uneven. Maybe he's the guy who accidentally starts trends or just doesn't care. But here's the part that fries your brain. She's into him. Really into him. Leaning into him. Smiling at every word he says. Laughing at his jokes like he's a rock star. Looking at him like he hung the moon. And that's when it hits you. You've got the gym membership, the hustle, the sharp outfits, the fresh haircut, the polished vibe. You've played the game, followed the rules. So why does this guy, the so-called average Joe, seem to effortlessly attract what most men chase their whole lives? This is where everything you've been taught about attraction starts to crumble. Because this isn't about luck. This isn't some weird outlier case. This is the rule you were never taught. The issue here isn't hotness. It's not about having a 6-figure bank account or a car that roars louder than your confidence. This is a deeper psychological level. Carl Jung level. Because real attraction, the kind that makes her heart race and her soul lean in, isn't built in the gym. It's forged in the fire of the human inner world. She doesn't want the hottest guy in the room. She wants the man who can make her feel something she can't explain. A mystery, a presence, a magnetic pull that doesn't need to beg, chase, or prove itself. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And most men never do. They become caricatures. They mimic alphas. They perform. But the men who master themselves, who walk through the world like they know themselves, those men don't attract women with effort. They attract through energy. You still don't believe me. Good. That means your mind is cracking open. Because this video, this moment, right now, isn't just content. It's your red pill. Your shift from surface-level attraction to the depth where real power lies. So buckle up, because once you see what's behind the curtain, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. This is your wake-up call. This is Carl Jung's Decode. This is where everything changes. Chapter 1. Attraction isn't just looks. Let's get one thing straight. You've been lied to. From the jump, you were taught that if you want to win at the game of girls, you need to be good-looking. You need a jawline sharp enough to cut glass, a six-pack that looks like Michelangelo carved it, a smile that melts hearts, and a bank account that screams real man status. And so you chase these things. You lift weights you don't even enjoy. You wear clothes you can't afford. You flex cars, status, watches, all to get her to notice you. And what happens? She notices someone else. Someone who doesn't even fit the mold. A guy who's average looking. No Greek god physique. No swagger. Just presence. And that's when your brain short-circuits, because everything you were taught falls apart. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate." This is the unconscious belief most men carry. If I look good enough, she'll want me. But women aren't wired like that. Men are visual, sure, but women are dynamic. emotional, psychological, archetypal. She's not asking, is he hot? She's asking, how do I feel around him? Does his presence calm me or unsettle me? Does he own the room? Or is he trying to impress it? Does he need me? Or is he whole without me? And this is the battlefield where most men lose before they even step foot on it. Because the ugly guys, they never had looks to fall back on. So they had no choice but to build something else, something more powerful. Psychological gravity. They mastered the inner game. While other men chased protein powder and haircuts, they chased self-awareness. They learned how to breathe when everyone else panics, how to observe instead of react, how to own their energy so deeply it speaks for itself. And women, they feel that long before they see the guy. They sense something magnetic in his aura. He doesn't need validation. He's not trying. He's not performing. He's just being. And in a world full of thirsty dudes, that kind of energy is like a lightning strike. Because women aren't attracted to looks alone. They're attracted to emotional, energetic, spiritual safety. She doesn't fall for a guy who just says, I got you. She falls for the guy who makes her nervous system believe it. You see, attraction isn't a checklist. It's a chemical reaction. And the formula is coded in confidence, mystery, presence, and self-mastery, things no gym mirror can reflect, things no filter can fake, things that only come when a man looks inward and makes peace with his shadow. Carl Jung built an entire psychological system on this, that our shadow, the parts we hide, is the gateway to our power. And the men who own their shadow, they radiate raw truth. They don't flinch. They don't chase. They pull her in. Not because they're desperate, but because their energy whispers, I know who I am. I don't need you. But I welcome you if you're real. And that's the kind of man women crave. Not the loudest, not the hottest, but the deepest. So the next time you feel defeated because some better-looking guy is in the race, check your energy. Check your presence. Because the truth is, it's not about ugly or hot. It's about how whole you are when no one's watching. That's what she feels. And that's what makes her fall. Chapter 2. Ugly guys don't perform. They project. Let's get brutally real. In the dating game, good-looking guys often get a head start. The world validates their looks. They're told they're special before they've even become anything. Compliments are handed to them like candy. You're so hot. You look like a model. You must have girls chasing you. And a lot of them, not all, but a lot, never develop the inner muscle. They don't have to. Their looks do the performance for them. Their face is their audition, and it usually gets them cast. But what happens when that face ages, when the charm fades, when they meet a woman who's seen through hotness 100 times? That's when the guy who was never cast steps up. The so-called ugly guy. The man who never got easy compliments. Who didn't get chased in high school. Who had to earn every ounce of attention with something deeper, with energy. Wit. Presence. Humor. Authenticity. That man had two choices. Shrink into bitterness, resentment, and envy. Or rise by mastering something beyond looks. And the ones who rise, they don't just compete, they dominate, because they're not operating for attention anymore. They project power. Carl Jung's psychology gives us the answer to this shift. He taught that true influence comes from individuation becoming whole within yourself, integrating your dark and light, your flaws and strengths, your past wounds and present confidence. Because when a man becomes whole, he stops chasing validation and starts radiating certainty. And people feel it. Women feel it. A man who isn't seeking attention becomes magnetic. A man who doesn't care if everyone loves him often becomes the one everyone notices. Why? Because he's not performing. He's not adaptable. He doesn't morph into who he thinks they want. He stays true to himself. And that is rare. That is sacred. That is powerful. Women don't want a man who's starving for approval. They want a man who feels certain in himself, where her presence is a bonus, not a necessity. Where her attention doesn't complete him, it just aligns. And that's what the ugly guys figure out. That attraction isn't a performance game. It's a projection frequency. And once they master that, they can walk into a room, say nothing, and still shift the entire atmosphere. They're not loud, not flashy, but their silence speaks volumes. Their energy fills the room. And women lean in not because of his looks, but because of how she feels around him. He's not saying, "Pick me." He's saying, "This is who I am. Choose wisely." And suddenly, he's irresistible. Because real men don't act for love. They embody it. So the next time you wonder why that ugly guy got the girl, look deeper. He's not performing. He's projecting. And projection always wins because it comes from the soul. Chapter 3. The work in the shadow makes them dangerous. You want the real secret, the one nobody talks about. The reason why a man who's not conventionally attractive, no abs, no designer closet, no Hollywood face, somehow becomes irresistible to high-value women. It's not pickup lines. It's not cologne. It's not luck. It's the inner work. Because while most men are flexing their outer glow, these ugly guys are wrestling with their shadow. They've faced nights of self-doubt. They've looked in the mirror and hated what they saw, but chose to love themselves anyway. They've been rejected, mocked, ignored. And instead of turning bitter, they turned inward. They did what Carl Jung called the hardest thing a human can do, the scariest thing, fully accepting themselves. Most men never do that. They spend their lives hiding what they don't like, repressing their anger, denying their fear, avoiding the childhood wounds that still haunt them. But this guy didn't. The man who's done the work in the shadow, he's walked through his own hell and come out whole. He's arrived. He didn't just build confidence. He built integration. He made peace with his inner chaos. And that kind of man is unstoppable, magnetic, and almost dangerous because he doesn't need anything from anybody anymore. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need approval. And most importantly, he doesn't need a woman to complete him. And that drives women wild. Because here's the paradox. When a man stops chasing a woman's light, she starts giving it to him willingly. Why? Because deep down, every woman can sense when a man has done the work. When his strength isn't for show, it's earned. When his stillness isn't laziness, it's discipline. When his silence isn't awkwardness, it's depth. The secret work turns him from a nice guy into a dangerous one. Not dangerous in a toxic way, but dangerous in the sense that he's uncontrollable. He can't be broken. He can't be tamed by shallow games. He's not perfect, but he's real, and that makes him rare. Because in a world full of men chasing dopamine, he's chasing integration. In a world full of men running from their shadow, he's become its friend. And now his presence carries a weight, a depth, a gravity that no gym membership can build, that no outer glow can replicate. Women don't sense it with their eyes, they sense it with their nervous system. That's the power of the shadow work. It doesn't make you sweeter, it makes you sovereign. And in that sovereignty, you stop chasing the girl and start becoming the man she can't stop thinking about. Chapter 4. They don't chase, they attract in today's world, where men are constantly hustling in inboxes, where DMs are flooded with heart emojis, compliments, and desperation, where guys compete like it's a clearance sale just to get a reply. There's a kind of man who breaks the mold, the man who doesn't chase. And because he doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't send paragraph-long texts at midnight. He doesn't analyze how long she took to reply. He doesn't refresh her story to see who she's with. He's calm, grounded, present, and unbothered. While others are trying, he's doing. While others are performing, he's projecting. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That's what these men have done. They've stripped away the layers of social programming, peeled off the masks, and said, "This is me. Take it or leave it." And that kind of authenticity is rare. It's raw. It's magnetic. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. The harder you try to impress someone, the more your subconscious signals that you're not enough without the effort. You're projecting lack. You're radiating need. You're chasing something outside yourself. And that energy repels the very thing you're trying to attract. But the man who knows himself doesn't run after anything because there's nothing to prove. His presence speaks louder than words. His silence carries more weight than another man's charm. He doesn't need to say, "Pick me." His energy says, "I've already chosen myself." That's why women lean in. Because when a man embraces his flaws, owns his story, and stands firm in his truth, he becomes undeniable. Carl Jung believed the self, the integrated, authentic, conscious version of you, is inherently magnetic. Not because it tries to be, but because it simply is. And that's where real confidence lives. Not in arrogance, not in being the loudest in the room, but in certainty. Real confidence is a man who says nothing, but the room feels him. Real confidence is a man who doesn't chase beauty because he knows his worth. Real confidence is in the silence. It doesn't need to announce itself because it knows its value. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, to chase, to overdo it, pause, breathe, return to your essence. Because attraction isn't about effort, it's about alignment. The attractive man isn't the one who tries the hardest. He's the one who's the most real. Chapter 5. They create safety in chaos. Let's talk real about something nobody mentions. Being beautiful is exhausting. Hot girls. They're stared at all day but rarely seen. They get likes, comments, flirty glances, shallow compliments, but very few men make them feel safe. Why? 'Cause most guys are either intimidated by her beauty and lose their voice, try to control her out of fear of losing her, or project their insecurities onto her. They make her feel responsible for their chaotic emotions. But then there's the exception, the man who's not conventionally attractive, no chiseled jaw, no model physique, but walks with the demeanor of a king who needs nothing from her. And suddenly, she feels something she almost never does: emotional safety. No jealous games, no possessiveness disguised as protection, no need to compete with his ego, no effort to idolize or control her. He doesn't fall at her feet. He looks in her eyes and sees her. Not the image, not the projection, but the woman behind the beauty. And that is powerful. Carl Jung's psychology explains this perfectly. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that's what this man gives her. He's not there to mold her, fix her, or chase her. He simply holds space for her to be herself, with her chaos, her complexity, her shadow, and her softness. Because he's already done that for himself. He doesn't need her to act a certain way to feel secure. He doesn't flinch when she's emotional. He doesn't crumble when she pulls back. Why? Because he's faced his own inner storms. He's not afraid of hers. That's the kind of man who can be her safe harbor. Not because he's trying to be, but because his energy says, "I'm not here to possess you. I'm here to hold you." And for a woman who's spent her life being sexualized, chased, objectified, that presence is a spiritual experience. It's healing. It's grounding. It's irresistible. The world tells her she needs to be perfect to be loved. But this man, he shows her she's enough, even at her messiest, her loudest, her most raw. That's not flirting. That's presence. That's not a game. That's soul-level safety. And ironically, it's the ugly guy who gives her what the hot guys rarely do: freedom. Freedom to exhale. Freedom to let go. Freedom to just be. Because he's not with her to complete himself. He's already whole. And through his authenticity, she becomes her truest self. And that's what she's really craving, not just to be desired, but to be safe. Chapter 6. They have mysterious depth. Let me tell you something straight up, and if you're not ready to hear this, stop reading now, because this truth will burn through everything you think matters. Looks fade, muscles shrink, hair falls out. Jawlines won't save you from emptiness. Your six-pack won't hold her attention forever. That suit, that car, that accessory you copied from some dating coach on YouTube, it all expires. That's high-level, short-term surface stuff. But mystery is timeless. Depth is endless, ageless, undeniable. You want to know why some men, the so-called ugly guys, are remembered long after they leave the room? Why women think about them at 2 a.m. Why she replays their conversation even though he didn't say much. It's not his looks. It's what he carries. Something you can't see, but you can feel. It's mystery. Carl Jung understood this at a soul level. He taught that humans must turn inward, face their inner darkness, and in doing so, they awaken themselves. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. These men, the quiet ones, the calm ones, the ones who don't say much, but say everything with their presence, they've been through something. They've fought their demons. They've buried their past. They've cried alone. They've been broken, cracked open, and rebuilt from the pain. And when a man walks through hell without losing himself, he comes back with depth. depth isn't just emotional intelligence. It's emotional command. It's not just kindness. It's calm in chaos. It's not performing. It's existing in a way that makes people feel something they can't explain but don't want to lose. Mystery isn't pretending. It's restraint. It's not acting distant to impress. It's being selective about what you give and to whom. Because when your soul is rich, you don't pour it into empty cups. That kind of man doesn't need to prove anything. He walks into a room and doesn't demand attention. The room quiets to his stillness. Women don't look at him and say, "Oh, he's so hot." They look at him and feel an ache, a curiosity. They sense a strength they can't manufacture, a presence that stirs something ancient in them. The feeling that this man has lived and survived. That's Jung's masculinity. That's the real alpha. Not loud, not aggressive, but sovereign, grounded, whole. He doesn't impress with wealth. He moves her with his presence. He doesn't try to please her. He unlocks her because he's unlocked himself. And that's what makes him unforgettable. Not his body, not his face, not his smile, but his depth, his silence. He doesn't chase. He doesn't perform. He just is. Like a mountain unmovable. Quiet. Mysterious. And she feels safer in his silence than in another sweet talk. That's why she chooses him. Not because the world says he's better, but because her intuition tells her he's real. Mystery is the gift of the man who's done the inner work, and depth is the reward he earns from his battle with himself. In a world full of shallow surface energy, he becomes the ocean. Chapter 7. She's drawn to power, not ego. Here's the truth that'll shatter your illusions. Most men completely misunderstand what power really is. They think it's domination, controlling the room, talking the loudest, owning every situation, flexing money, flexing strength, flexing supremacy. But what really attracts women isn't ego. It's presence, steady power. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. Think about it. Ego is loud. Ego wants to be seen, admired, validated. Ego gets insecure when it's not the center of attention. Ego tries to possess people, including women, because it's scared of losing them. But real power, true power, is quiet. It doesn't need to convince anyone. It just is. Carl Jung captured this brilliantly when he said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your heart." And that's the kind of man women sense at a soul level. The man who's faced himself, who's looked into the darkest corners of his past, who doesn't wear a mask because he's not afraid to be seen as he is. He doesn't seek approval because he's already approved himself. So when a woman steps into his space, something rare happens. She doesn't feel pressured. She doesn't feel judged. She doesn't feel like she has to be anything other than her real self. Instead, she feels calm because his energy says, "I'm not here to dominate you. I'm here to meet you." She feels safe because he's not driven by a need to control. He's rooted in his ability to hold steady. She feels drawn to the silence that carries immense strength, his stillness that has a strange pull, his confidence that's felt, not flaunted. That's the kind of power she craves, not the fake alpha energy screaming, "Look at me," but the whole man, who leads without forcing, who commands without shouting, who protects without needing praise. In fact, the less he needs to be seen, the more vividly he exists in her heart. And this is where most men fail. They chase domination. They chase attention. But the man who's done the real work, he doesn't chase anything because he is what others chase: peace, strength, depth, stillness, truth. And when a woman meets that kind of man, she feels something in her nervous system that no ego can mimic, a profound safety. She doesn't need to wear armor. She doesn't need to compete. She breathes deeper because she knows she's in the presence of someone real. And that's power. Not loud, not arrogant, not flashy, but steady, unshakable, clear. So remember this. The man who needs to prove his worth is always overcompensating. But the man who knows his worth makes a woman wonder why she can't stop thinking about him. Chapter 8. Their wounds are the same, and that's rare. Sometimes she chooses him not because of his face, not because of his status, but because of something far more mysterious, far more primal. His pain mirrors hers. They've never spoken about it. They might not even be fully aware of it. But it's there. A quiet resonance between two souls who speak the same emotional language. He doesn't wear his wounds on his sleeve. He might even seem stoic, unreadable, distant. But deep down, she senses something in him, a familiarity, a wound that reflects her own. It's not about sharing trauma stories. It's about a shared frequency, a vibration that hums. I know what it's like to be broken and still show up. Carl Jung described this mysterious attraction as part of the collective unconscious. The idea that beneath our conscious awareness, our souls carry the pain, patterns, and emotional blueprints of our ancestors. And sometimes two people find each other not through logic, not through looks, not through lifestyle, but through that vibration. The world looks at them and asks, why her, why him they don't match? She's out of his league. But their souls are saying something entirely different. I see you because I am you. He might not have model looks, but when she looks at him, she sees a reflection of something deeper than physical attraction. She sees a man who's felt rejection like she has, who's known loss like she has, who's been silenced, ignored, misunderstood just like her. And in a world obsessed with surface beauty, that kind of emotional reflection is rare, sacred, and real. Because here's the truth. Most relationships are built on distraction, on pretending, on hiding pain with pleasure. But this kind of connection is forged in the dark, shaped in places we can't post on social media, born from the quiet pain in our hearts. The pain we thought no one would ever understand until someone does. Not because they say the right words, but because their energy carries the same scar. That's why she chooses him. Not because he fits the standard, but because he makes her feel seen without saying a word. He doesn't have the perfect jawline, but he has truth in his silence, safety in his stillness, familiarity in his pain. Carl Jung knew that when you meet someone who mirrors the parts of you you've rejected, it's not just attraction, it's healing. And that's what makes their bond unbreakable. Not just romance, not just chemistry, but a soul-level agreement. I'll carry your pain if you carry mine. And that's deeper than any Instagram-worthy relationship. That's why, even if the world doesn't get them, they get each other. And that's enough. Chapter 9. He doesn't worship her, he mirrors her. Let's make one thing clear. Most men crumble before beauty. They see a woman with radiant energy, perfect features, magnetic charm, and instantly, they shift. Their posture changes, their voice changes, their self-worth dips, and without even realizing it, they put her on a pedestal, not because she asked for it, but because they've been taught that if she's beautiful, she's above me. So what happens? They start overcompensating, trying to win her, impress her, please her. They lose their center in hopes of catching her attention. They don't relate. They worship. But the high-value ugly guy, the one who's done the inner work, he doesn't get dazzled because he doesn't see her through the lens of his insecurities. He sees her through the lens of truth. He doesn't idealize her. He gives her something she rarely finds: a mirror. Not a shallow, flattering mirror, but a mirror of presence, of steady energy, of soul-level awareness. Carl Jung captured this perfectly when he said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And that's exactly what this man brings: transformation. She meets him expecting the same treatment she gets everywhere else: adoration, worship, the loss of masculine essence in her feminine radiance. But instead, he stays grounded. He doesn't bow. He holds steady. He doesn't chase. He invites. He doesn't give too much. He reflects. And in that stillness, in that refusal to worship, she feels something entirely new, her own depth. Because the truth is, she's sick of men who get dazzled by her beauty. She's tired of guys who see her as a prize, not a soul. What she craves, what she aches for, is a man who sees through her, not just at her. A man who isn't blinded by her beauty but awakened by her presence. And that man, he might not have model looks, but his energy is undeniable. His mind is sharp. His eyes are deep. His presence is unshakable. And when she's with him, she doesn't feel anxious. She feels seen, not as an object, not as a fantasy, but as a human, whole, flawed, and real. He mirrors back her complexity, her chaos, her shadow, her softness, and her strength. He mirrors her soul, not her surface. And that's what makes him unforgettable: not his clothes, not his charm, not his looks, but his ability to hold a space deep enough for both to transform. That's the kind of man who never gets lost in her. He brings her home to herself. And while the world is scratching its head, wondering why she chose him, she's smiling because she knows they'll never know. He might look ugly to the world, but he's the mirror she's been searching for her whole life. Chapter 10. She sees the future, not the filter. Let's pull back the curtain on attraction in the modern world. A world addicted to filtered faces, thirst traps, and swipe culture. Most men are busy perfecting their image. But the women who've seen real life, who've been through disappointment, manipulation, fake smiles, and empty promises, they're not chasing filters. They're chasing foundation. You see, while the average guy is obsessing over angles, lighting, gym selfies, and follower counts, she's looking for something deeper, emotional safety, spiritual depth, masculine consistency. A man who doesn't just impress but shows up. Because the truth is, she's not trying to be a highlight reel. She's building a future. She's thinking, can I trust him in the storm? Can he meet me in my mess? Will he protect the parts of me even I struggle to love? And while so many guys out there are peacocking in the digital realm, the ugly guy, the one called ordinary, overlooked, dismissed, he's done something far more important. He's built character. He's not trying to be perfect. He's trying to be real. He's not curating an aesthetic. He's cultivating essence. And that kind of man might not win Instagram likes, but he wins respect, trust, and lifelong connection. Because Jung's concept of individuation teaches us this. Wholeness doesn't come from how you appear. It comes from integrating your true self. It's about aligning the mask with the soul, the ego with the essence, the image with the integrity. And that's exactly what this man has done. He's not distracted by social validation. He's connected to something higher truth. And that truth shines through every part of him. His energy is calm. His words are few but weighted. His vibe isn't pick-me. It whispers, I'm whole. Come align. So while other men are stuck in the illusion of digital perfection, she's looking for the one who feels like home, not a photo shoot. She doesn't want a man who lives in filters. She wants one who's survived fire, one who's real when no one's watching, one who doesn't just look the part, but is the part. And in the quiet storm of that authenticity, she sees what the world often misses: a future, a real man, a soul she can build with. Because beauty might fade, bodies change, trends shift, but character endures through time. So the next time you see a hot girl with a guy who doesn't look like he belongs on a magazine cover, understand this. She didn't choose the filter. She chose the future. Final chapter, he didn't fall for his face. She fell for his frequency. You still think it's about the jawline, the filter, the followers, the flex lifestyle as its currency. Nah, bro, that's noise. That's surface. She's not clocking your selfie. She's catching your soul's signal. And if your energy is chaotic, insecure, starving for validation, she'll feel it before you say a word. She's not drawn to what shines. She's drawn to what's steady. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. But this man, he faced it. He looked straight into his pain. He bled quietly. He healed slowly. He met his shadow. And instead of running from it, he integrated it. Now he walks differently. He talks less. He carries the calm of a man who knows who he is and doesn't need to prove it to anybody. He doesn't chase attention. He doesn't play mind games. He doesn't seek women's approval. He seeks alignment with truth. And when she meets him, something inexplicable happens. It's not infatuation. It's not a fling. It's a recognition. Like her soul whispers, there you are. Is that you? In a world where most men are performing. He's real. And that's rare. That's what cuts deeper than looks. Because she didn't fall for his face. She fell for how safe she feels around him. For how he shows up when everything else is chaos. For how he listens not to reply, but to understand. For how he doesn't try to possess her, he sees her. And that's the frequency she surrenders to. Not the face, not the body, not the filtered illusion, but a man who turned pain into presence, who turned silence into strength, who turned truth into magnetism. He doesn't try to impress her. He invites her soul to rest. So take this to heart. The loudest man rarely wins her heart. The clearest one does. Because when you carry stillness in a noisy world, you don't chase anything. You become what she can't stop feeling. This is your signal to rise. This isn't just a video. It's a mirror. And if even 1% of this message cracks something open inside you, a memory, a truth, a wound you've buried that's not an accident, that's your awakening. So comment below. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be real. Say it loud. Own it. Because when you stop performing for the world, you finally start becoming the man you were born to be. Like this, not for the algorithm, but for the man you're becoming. The one who walks with truth, leads with silence, radiates depth. Subscribe if you're done chasing validation and ready to unlock the most magnetic, grounded, confident version of yourself. And share this with a brother who still thinks he needs a sharper jawline to be loved, when what he really needs is a deeper soul. Because in the end, it's not about being hot, it's about being healed. And that's the sexiest thing on earth.